There are bad days. And then there are Deadpool days, the kind where one small mistake turns into a full-blown disaster, and suddenly every hero, every villain, and every trigger-happy vigilante in the city is lining up for your head. Hey everyone, welcome back to Panelix, where we break down comic storylines filled with chaos, twists, and all the insanity the pages can barely contain. Today we're diving into the madness of Deadpool Suicide Kings, a story where Wade Wilson goes from casual mercenary to the most hunted man in the entire Marvel Universe. This isn't just another Deadpool adventure, this is the arc where the walls close in fast. Heroes who normally tolerate him, like Spider-Man, suddenly want him stopped. Even the Punisher jumps in, and you already know what his idea of conflict resolution looks like. Suicide King shows what happens when Deadpool's luck runs out, and every connection he ever made turns into another person pulling the trigger. What makes the story even crazier is that Deadpool isn't the villain here. He's been set up, thrown under the bus, and blamed for something huge. And the deeper he digs to clear his name, the worse everything gets, until the only question left is, who's framing him? And why? So let's jump straight into the chaos and follow Deadpool as he tries to survive a world that suddenly wants him dead. This is the full Suicide King storyline. Let's get into it. In a room full of dead mercenaries, Deadpool tried to find the person who invited him into the room filled with mercenaries. He managed to kill every mercenary by shooting them, and even beheaded the mercenaries there. Earlier, Deadpool dressed up in his poorly furnished apartment while singing and looking in the mirror. When he left the apartment, he found a flyer that read, "Mercenary of the Year. Winner will receive a year's subscription and $200,000 in cash and prizes." Deadpool was interested because he could buy a lot of ramen noodles with that money, so he went to a warehouse called Vito's Self-Storage. As Deadpool entered the warehouse, he met a group of other mercenaries sitting on chairs waiting for their client. One of the mercenaries sitting next to Deadpool greeted Deadpool and said, "Can you believe they brought us all the way to Newark for this? Sit down, man, they'll be out to brief us soon. Hey, I know you. You're Deadpool, right? You got quite the reputation in the community. If I knew you were coming, I would have saved myself the trip. You're a legend." But the killer spoke to Deadpool with a suspicious look. When Deadpool asked why he was looking at him like that, the man suddenly pulled out a knife and tried to stab Deadpool. Deadpool managed to grab his arm and take the knife. Then the other mercenaries tried to kill Deadpool, but he took out his katana sword and slashed and stabbed all the mercenaries, who were all easily killed in the end. Soon a young man in business attire came out of the shadows in the warehouse and congratulated him on killing them all. He told Deadpool, "I heard you were good, but not that good. You really messed those guys up. That was some serious Black Ops style ninja killing back there." Deadpool pointed his gun at the young man and said, "Start talking or start dying. Who are you?" The young man replied in a scared tone, "Hey, take it easy. No need to point the gun. I want to hire you. It's not like you're listed in the yellow pages or on Craigslist, so I had to get creative. So I came up with this little scenario. They were just supposed to rough you up, see if you were as badass as they said you were. Nobody was supposed to get hurt." Deadpool guessed that in the end, things didn't go as planned. The young man asked Deadpool to put away the gun pointed at his forehead, but Deadpool asked the young man for information on why he wanted to hire Deadpool in the first place. The young man replied, "I'm in real trouble with this bookie. A real bad cat, a cold-blooded killer who's threatened to kill my whole family, including my second cousins, if I don't get him his money. The thing is, I just don't have that kind of money. So I want you to hire me to kill the man and cut him up into bite-sized pieces so I can feed him to my cats." Deadpool initially refused the offer, but the young man said, "Didn't you hear me? I will pay you. I will pay you $500,000 in cash, and another $500,000 when the job is done." Deadpool asked where he was going to get that kind of money, and the young man replied, "My monthly allowance and my trust fund. My dad's rich, he's a billionaire. Family money, actually. My great-grandfather invented rubber." Deadpool asked why he didn't just ask his father for the money, and the young man replied, "He won't give it to me. He thinks I have this gambling problem. Look, Mr. Deadpool, I'll pay you. I know what you'd do to me if I didn't. And how about this? If you want, use me as collateral. Hold me for ransom. My father would pay you anything you want." Deadpool then imagined what he could do with the $1 million when his job was done, while the young man begged Deadpool to help him. Eventually, Deadpool agreed to help. One night on the streets of Harlem, New York, Deadpool walked towards an apartment, then he sneaked into a room, then he broke the door of the room, and suddenly the whole building exploded. But luckily, Deadpool survived the explosion, then he got angry at a man who only filmed the explosion while people were dying. They both looked at the destroyed apartment, which was still covered in flames. An enraged Deadpool returned to the warehouse of Vito's self-storage to ask where Conrad was. But strangely, the warehouse was now clean and free of the mercenary corpses from the earlier battle. When Deadpool questioned a man about Conrad's whereabouts, a co-worker of the man said they both knew nothing about a young man named Conrad, so Deadpool released the man and left. At a bar, Deadpool flirted with a bartender, imagining marrying the waitress with the Avengers as witnesses. Deadpool then sat alone in another chair and watched a TV report about a clip of Deadpool being blamed for the bombing of the apartment he had entered earlier in Harlem. Deadpool quickly paid for his order and left the room. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the living room, Conrad sat with a mysterious man behind him. The man was the one Conrad had earlier described to Deadpool as the one who was blackmailing him because he was in debt. The man was also the one who framed Deadpool in the TV footage as a suspect in the apartment bombing. The man tells Conrad that he knows Shenty Williams, a rich and famous basketball player from the New York Knicks basketball team, who once got into a fight with some nightclub bouncers because he couldn't afford the cover charge. Deadpool was in the background of the fight, unaware of what was going on, happily eating his pizza. Meanwhile, Shanty elbowed the nightclub bouncer, knocking him to the ground. When Shanty bragged and tried to pick a fight with Deadpool, Deadpool knocked Shanty to the ground. Shanty tried to pull out a gun and shoot Deadpool, but Deadpool reacted faster and managed to cut off all of his fingers that were holding the gun. Sometime later, Shanty was in the hospital for surgery to reattach his fingers. A few days later, he recovered and returned to the basketball game. Apparently, Conrad was the one who bet on the NY kicks to win, which he ended up owing to this mysterious man. This mysterious man then appeared as a big man in a suit and with a silver face, body, and hair. His name was Tombstone. Tombstone demanded that the debt be paid or Conrad would be killed. Conrad told Tombstone that Deadpool would help Conrad no matter what. Then Tombstone explained that if Conrad failed, he would double the debt. Conrad was then sent off to get lunch for the two of them. Meanwhile, a TV report continued to report on Deadpool's involvement as the prime suspect in an alleged act of terrorism. A vicious act of destruction that can only be described as terrorism. There isn't much information on the subject responsible for this act except for his name. Deadpool, a mercenary who sells his services to the highest bidder and who has operated in the shadows until now. A man who has now become public enemy number one. With local law enforcement working in tandem with the FBI in an unprecedented nationwide manhunt, the mayor has assured the public that it is only a matter of time before the culprit is brought to justice. In a room full of guns and firearms, someone is preparing to hunt down Deadpool. That someone is Frank Castle, also known as the Punisher, and he's ready to bring Deadpool to justice the only way Frank knows how, by killing. Meanwhile, the waitress at Knocker's bar, where Deadpool was chilling a while back, was being questioned by detectives trying to track down Deadpool's whereabouts. The detectives gave the waitress a photo of Deadpool for identification, and she said, "You know, I got a weird vibe from him right away, like something was seriously wrong. Why do they always put the freaks in my section? I mean, what's wrong with me? I'm like some kind of loser magnet." "So what exactly did he do, Detective Cates?" The detective said that he was responsible for the building bombing that made the news. The woman said she would like to help the detectives. Detective Cates asked her, "That's good to know, ma'am. Did he say anything to you about where he was going, who he was meeting with? Anything that might help us find him?" The waitress replied, "Not really. He just kept staring at my boobs and trying to smell my hair, and said I looked good in my uniform." Meanwhile, Detective Cates' partner's attention was always on her breasts. When Cates elbowed his partner out of the way to stop staring at the waitress's breasts, his partner asked the waitress how he paid for his meal. The waitress replied, "Cash, I remember because he left it on top of a creepy little picture he drew. I think it was supposed to be of me. It had all these hearts and smiley faces, and he even left his number." The two detectives asked the waitress if they could see the drawing, and the detectives then went into the dumpster behind the bar and tried to find the drawing on the paper and eventually found it. As they said goodbye to the waitress and were about to leave the area, Detective Cates took off his fake mustache, and it was revealed that he was actually Frank Castle, working undercover as a detective with his partner Henry. Henry says that once they get his number, it will be easy to track down Deadpool. They get back into their van and drive away from the bar to track Deadpool, using the clue they got from the wiretap, pizza. Elsewhere, a pizza delivery guy is driving his car, singing his way somewhere. When the pizza guy arrives at the apartment to deliver the order, Frank Castle, aka the Punisher, is standing by his van next to the pizza guy's car. Frank asked the pizza delivery guy to give him a pizza box and a pizza delivery uniform in exchange for $1,000. Soon, Frank went to the apartment and knocked on the door of the intended room, Deadpool's room, dressed as a pizza delivery man. Frank called the resident and pretended to be a pizza delivery guy, and when Deadpool opened the door, he didn't realize that the pizza delivery guy was the Punisher. He asked Frank to just come into his room while he counted his coins to pay the pizza guy in cash. Deadpool then took out $20 in coins from the jar containing his coins and counted them before giving them to Frank. Meanwhile, behind him, Frank was getting ready to attack Deadpool. As he was about to pull out his gun, Deadpool could see him from the shadow on the jar. He then threw the dozens of coins he was holding at Frank, and at the same time, Frank shot Deadpool's body several times. Frank then removes his pizza delivery disguise and reveals himself as the Punisher. Frank fired his laser gun directly into Deadpool's eye, shattering Deadpool's right eye, but he was still able to continue fighting Frank. Just then, Frank's gun was cut in half by Deadpool's katana sword, which warned Frank that it would destroy his body. But Frank had another trick. He opened his suit and revealed a mechanical arm from his back, like Dr. Octopus. Frank strangled Deadpool with the mechanical arm and threw him to the ceiling of the room. Deadpool's head went through the wooden floor of the apartment owner, Mrs. Jensen. Deadpool briefly greeted Mrs. Jensen before being pulled back into his own room by Frank to continue their fight. Frank's mechanical arm knocked Deadpool to the floor and then threw him through the apartment window. Deadpool then became angry and pulled out his katana sword to cut off the arm, but it caused him to fall out of the apartment. Frank manages to entangle Deadpool's legs with wires as Deadpool tries to taunt him into dropping him. However, knowing his healing abilities, Frank decides to electrocute Deadpool through the wires that entangled him. A moment later, Deadpool appeared to go limp, but it turned out to be a ploy to trick Frank, and he pulled the wire with Frank, causing them both to fall from a height. Frank and Deadpool then landed on the roof of an apartment building, with Deadpool surviving, but Frank allegedly not. He remained lying there. About 10 minutes later, Deadpool went to another apartment and knocked on the door of a room. A woman named Inez answered the door. She recognized Deadpool and invited him in. She also knew that his real name was Wade Wilson. Wade was brought in by Inez to sit on the sofa and rest. Then he decided to rest his head on Inez's chest. Apparently, Deadpool's injuries are quite severe, and Inez tells him to keep talking or he will go into shock. Then Inez tells Wade that she knows about the widespread news of Deadpool's alleged bombing of the apartment building. Deadpool tells Inez that he was set up by someone and he suspects that Conrad is the culprit. Throughout the night in Inez's apartment, Deadpool continues to talk about the events he has experienced lately, from the apartment bombing to being attacked by Frank Castle, aka the Punisher, with an iron arm. Inez tells him that he's explaining something that doesn't make sense, and then Deadpool starts hallucinating. Suddenly, Wade's cell phone gets a call. Inez picks it up but gets no answer. Apparently, Frank survived the fight and Deadpool's attack, and now he and his partner have tracked Deadpool's cell phone. Meanwhile, Tombstone and Conrad are in the slums with two large men who are carrying a handcuffed and gagged man. Tombstone then introduces Conrad to his large pigs with flaming eyes, explaining that these pigs eat medical waste and turn into more aggressive pigs. Tombstone also explains that he is currently feeding them human toes, fingers, and arms. One of the large pigs, named Hannibal, even tried to eat Tombstone's own finger. Tombstone ordered his men to throw the handcuffed man, who turned out to be Shenty Williams, into the herd of pigs, and he was immediately eaten alive. He then grabbed Conrad's hump and pushed his head near one of the pigs, which of course tried to eat his head. Tombstone threatens the terrified Conrad that this is what will happen if he does not pay his debts. Tombstone will make Conrad work for him and eventually kill him. He asks Conrad to report daily where he is going, and to confirm his location, he injects a tracking chip into Conrad's neck so that Tombstone will know where Conrad is at all times. The next morning, Wade is told to get up by Inez, who is already dressed and getting ready to go somewhere. Inez then asks Wade what his next plan is. Then Wade tells her that he wants to find the person who set him up. Inez offers to call Agent X, but Wade tells her that's not necessary, because he'd rather do it himself. Wade asked her how Agent X was doing, and Inez replied that Agent X had lost weight. Inez then teased Wade that she missed him and was going to get a wax. Moments later, after Inez left, Deadpool was still in Inez's apartment watching TV. As he opened the door to leave, the Punisher reappeared and suddenly slashed his right arm. As Wade tried to remove the gun from the holster at his waist with his left arm, Frank quickly sliced his left arm as well, and Wade kicked Frank to the ceiling of the apartment. As Deadpool was about to run at Frank, Frank managed to dodge his attack and stab Deadpool in the back. Frank then managed to slice his chest, and Deadpool fell to the floor in a pool of his own blood. Deadpool said to Frank as he crawled on the ground, "In the future, you might want to do a little research because I didn't blow up that building. Who are you going to believe, me or the TV? Ever heard of green screen?" But Frank didn't believe Deadpool's words. As he was about to slash at Deadpool with his sword, he was suddenly hit in the head from behind until he fell unconscious. And it turned out that the person who did it was Daredevil. And he was talking to Deadpool that it looked like Deadpool needed help. In New York City, Deadpool walked into a building to talk to the publisher of Black Ops magazine, and the woman at the front desk replied, "Oh, did you leave a message on the machine earlier about a kidnapping ad? Because we're not allowed to run those ads anymore. The FBI is all sensitive about our new president." Deadpool said that he had only come to answer questions and was not part of the FBI or a former employee, and the woman then said that the editor was in the back room. As Deadpool enters the back room, an old man is playing a game and gets annoyed when Deadpool enters and asks about Conrad placing an ad on the flyer. The man threatens Deadpool by pointing a gun at him and saying, "I don't give out names, that's why I've been in this business for 4 years. Now get out of here before I light you up." But Deadpool easily sliced the gun in half with his katana sword. The man still didn't feel threatened by Deadpool because he was used to being tortured. Then Deadpool offered a deal to win the game, and if he won, the old man would give him some information. Deadpool then played the editor's game and managed to get a clue. Sometime later, Deadpool handed an envelope to a man who understood the design of the emblem and the envelope itself. Deadpool was accompanied by Daredevil. Daredevil said, "The envelope is made of 100% cotton paper. There's an embossed crest stamped on it." The bespectacled man looked at the design on the envelope and said, "A raised design on the paper? I see it now. That's the O'Shea crest. John O'Shea. Think Kennedy family, think money and connections. Hasn't been a mayor elected without their backing in 30 years. Daredevil then says to the man with the glasses, "Yeah, I'm familiar with Mr. O'Shea, but he's a little older than the guy we're looking for." Deadpool asked if John O'Shea had children, and the man with the glasses said yes. Meanwhile, Frank, who was driving his van, was informed of Daredevil and Deadpool's whereabouts by Henry, then got in his van and headed toward them. Meanwhile, Deadpool and Daredevil arrived at an abandoned fire station where Deadpool was told to keep quiet and not draw attention to himself. Daredevil said, "If I'm going to help you, you're going to have to stop drawing attention to us, because you're innocent of this crime, and there's someone out there who isn't." Deadpool and Daredevil are suddenly attacked by a sonic pulse that stuns Daredevil but has no effect on Deadpool. They are apparently attacked again by Frank, and Frank throws Deadpool out the window and he lands on the roof of Frank's van. Henry warns Frank not to shoot as he lands on top of their van. Frank jumps down and starts attacking Deadpool with his right arm, which is a pickaxe. As Deadpool begins to dodge his attacks by jumping right and left, he finally manages to pin Frank's hand to the body of the van, immobilizing Frank. Daredevil tells Deadpool not to attack, and Frank says to Daredevil, "Since when do you come to the aid of mass murderers?" Daredevil replies, "Because he's innocent, Frank. He's annoying, but he didn't commit this crime." Henry then drives off with the van, leaving Frank's hand still on the body of the van. A moment later, Deadpool tells Daredevil that he recognized the weapon. The Reaper, the Grim Reaper. The weapon he was swinging belonged to the Grim Reaper. Conan used it one night. I remember it clearly because Carmen Electra was playing. Daredevil, sensing that Deadpool was just talking again, told him to move on to the next location at O'Shea's penthouse. Meanwhile, at the penthouse, O'Shea had just taken Viagra and was about to have sex with a woman. When he entered the room, he was surprised to see Daredevil and Deadpool already there. He told the woman to leave the room and asked them both what Conrad was doing this time. Deadpool explained that Conrad was responsible for getting him into this mess. He recounted everything from a warehouse full of killers to an exploded apartment full of innocent people. Daredevil says that whether Conrad is guilty or not, they need to find him. Then Mr. O'Shea tells them, "And I want you to find him. And if he is guilty, Conrad should pay the full price under the law. But you better be sure he is, or I will bring every bit of political clout I have down on both of you like an axe." Deadpool, however, mocked him for not scaring him. O'Shea goes on to explain that they need to go to Harlem to find a large black albino named Tombstone. They leave the building and go their separate ways for a while. Meanwhile, Tombstone is playing golf when one of his men tells him that Deadpool and Daredevil were spotted outside O'Shea's penthouse, and Tombstone tells Conrad, who has now become his caddy boy, to start packing. Tombstone then throws Conrad to the ground, which is littered with freshly buried bodies. Elsewhere, Daredevil goes to a garage where two men are singing as they repair a car. Then Daredevil demands that they tell him the location of Tombstone. But the men are not afraid because they are Tombstone's men. They now prepare to beat up Daredevil. But Daredevil easily defeats them by kicking the other man and grabbing Ty by the neck. He then asks for the location of Tombstone. Ty says that if he tells Daredevil the location of Tombstone, he will be killed. But Daredevil then threatens Ty. "You're going to tell me where Tombstone is. Tell me, or when I'm done with you, you're going to wish he had." Meanwhile, Deadpool returns to Inez's new apartment to meet her. When Inez opens the door and sees Deadpool, she hits him in a fit of pique because he broke her favorite couch and got Inez evicted by her previous landlord due to damage from a fight between Deadpool and the Punisher. Deadpool tells her that Frank is the one who is crazy because he managed to cut off both his limbs and tells her that he will pay for the damages. As Inez apologizes for hitting him, she asks if Wade found the person he was looking for. Wade tells Inez that the person he's looking for is named Tombstone. Suddenly, Deadpool notices a man using binoculars to look into Inez's apartment. Wade, knowing that the man is actually following him, shoots out the window to chase him, which makes Inez angry because he has damaged her apartment again. Deadpool says he'll replace it, then shoots and rides the zipline from Inez's apartment window to the mysterious black man's apartment window. Deadpool hits the window because it is made of plexiglass, but he soon finds another way and starts chasing the man as he runs away. The man called someone to tell them that Deadpool was chasing him. However, Deadpool caught up with him, and when the man confronted Deadpool directly, he screamed and ran in the opposite direction. Deadpool chased the man again until they reached the window washer platform, then Deadpool climbed onto the platform and cut the cable until they both fell. As they fell, Deadpool caught the man and jumped from the platform to the roof of another building. As Deadpool forced him to tell him the location of the Tombstone, Spider-Man suddenly arrived and made fun of Deadpool's costume. "Nice costume, love all the pockets. You walk like a fanny pack, but you have to beat the ladies off with a stick." Then Deadpool was attacked by Spider-Man and finally caught in Spider-Man's web. Spider-Man said to Deadpool, "If you have any more Spidey questions, you can check out the Spidey blog or ask them on the way to prison." But Deadpool kept telling Spider-Man that he was innocent, but before he could explain further, his head was suddenly blown off by Frank the Punisher with an explosive arrow aimed at him from a distance. "Gotcha!" Long story short, Deadpool was saved by Spider-Man, and now he is dreaming about being in the Wizard of Oz, where he suddenly woke up because the Tin Man shot the Munchkin. As Deadpool looks around and is confused about his whereabouts, he asks Daredevil where they are, then Daredevil replies that Spider-Man is the one who saved him. Spider-Man then tells Deadpool, "Yeah, sorry about the whole not believing you thing. If it makes you feel any better, you got blood and dirt all over my new costume. Don't worry about the dry cleaning bill." But Deadpool tells him to focus on fighting his own villains instead of meddling in his business. Deadpool and Spider-Man are arguing when Spider-Man tells Deadpool that Tombstone is also his villain. Then Daredevil tells them both to shut up and split up to find the address where Tombstone is. Meanwhile, Tombstone was carrying a bag and was told to go to the spotlight to talk to the Hood, one of the many criminals in New York City. Apparently, Tombstone wanted to ask the Hood a favor. "I appreciate you seeing me, no nonsense, straight to the point. I appreciate the directness. I'd like to rent some of your muscle, Hood. I won't bother negotiating." Hood then replied to Tombstone's request, "Rent out? I don't do bar mitzvahs and weddings. I'd be very careful now, Tombstone. What you don't see are the many weapons trained on your pale white skull, enough firepower to blow you back to the rock you crawled out from under." Tombstone then took a decapitated head out of his bag and told Hood it was a reward for letting him meet him. Hood asked Tombstone who he needed protection from, and Tombstone said he needed protection from Deadpool and gave his reasons. What do either of them want? To settle a score? To right a wrong? Who knows? He's traveling with two others I know you're familiar with, Daredevil and my old buddy Spider-Man. Two birds with one stone, of course. Hood told Tombstone that he would need a lot of money to hire his men. "It will cost you a lot. You would be paying for my people's time, their expertise. If anything happens to them, you pay all the medical expenses. It sounds petty, but we don't do hospitals, just house calls. It adds up." Hood also explained what would happen if he was betrayed or counterattacked. "And let me make something very clear, Tombstone. If anything comes back to bite me, you will not be pleased. I can assure you of that." Hood agreed to Tombstone's request. "My people will contact you to work out the details. You can go now and take the garbage with you." Tombstone happily left the area and returned to his limousine, where he was astonished to find Conrad bleeding from his hands. The driver then told Tombstone that Conrad had tried to attack him with the bottle, but he managed to shoot himself in the hand. Tombstone was upset because the bottle was a birthday present from Russell Simmons, and a tearful Conrad asked to be returned to his father. He also said that his father would pay for it, but unfortunately, Tombstone did not do this for money. Meanwhile, Conrad uses Tombstone's napkin to cover his wound. On the other hand, Henry and Frank are driving around New York in their black van, and Henry tells Frank that Deadpool looks alive. Frank doesn't believe it, but in the end, he speeds up the van to go to where Deadpool was last seen. Meanwhile, Deadpool was in an adult club, and as he watched the women pole dancing, he told the people in the club, "All right, party people, there's a new sheriff in town, and his name is Deadpool. I'm looking for someone who goes by the name of Tombstone. For those who may have seen him but don't know the name, Tombstone is an albino, so if you're nervous about saying anything out loud, you can just point to where the albino is hiding. I suggest, if he is here, somebody better say something fast, otherwise I got $100 in singles and I am not leaving until every last one is spent. And I'm not one of those people who showers money. I can be here for days." Before Deadpool could continue, he saw Frank in the club's mirror and kicked him. Frank was thrown into the window, then Deadpool asked if he had anything new to knock Deadpool out with. Frank said he just wanted to kill Deadpool with his bare hands. Soon, Deadpool managed to dodge his attack and fell to the ground, but Frank quickly knocked Deadpool down as well. Frank ran towards Deadpool, who was still trying to get up, but Deadpool grabbed Frank's hair and slammed his face into the ground, breaking his nose. Frank retaliated by biting off Deadpool's nose and managed to pin Deadpool to the ground with both legs. As Deadpool struggled, Frank pulled out his gun and pointed it at Deadpool's face. But at the same time, Deadpool also pointed his gun at Frank's face. Deadpool tried to convince Frank that he was being set up. Then Henry told him through the earpiece that he was being honest by detecting a normal heartbeat. Frank finally lets Deadpool go and asks who framed him. Deadpool, still trying to talk with his nose still missing, says that the person who framed him is Tombstone. And it turns out that Frank knows who Tombstone is and tells Deadpool that he can find Tombstone and beat him up. Frank and Deadpool then walk through a street full of gangsters, and Frank asks some of the gang members questions. "I'm looking for answers, and someone will give them to me." Meanwhile, Deadpool is behind him, taunting the gangsters. One of the gangsters says he hasn't seen Tombstone in a long time, and Henry tells him he's being honest. Then Frank asked another man about the existence of Tombstone, and the man said he didn't even know what he was talking about, while the man's heartbeat was also normal. So it could be concluded that he was also honest. Frank and Deadpool asked another gang member about the existence of Tombstone. The man said he didn't know anything about it, but Henry told him that this man's heartbeat was racing, so he was caught lying. Henry went on to tell Frank that this man was Pete Wu, a bad guy with a history of theft, rape, and murder. Deadpool then decided to shoot Pete in the hand, and while Pete was in pain, Frank told him to follow his orders and call Tombstone. Soon, Pete managed to call Tombstone with an alibi tip about a game, and Tombstone's location is finally known, and they both go there. There, Tombstone and his men lead Conrad to a fight between Tombstone's pig and a baboon. The baboon finally lost, and the person who lost the bet paid Tombstone in anger. Suddenly, Lobotomy, the person who lost the bet, saw Deadpool and Frank enter the fighting arena, but it seemed that Tombstone was not surprised by their arrival, and Lobotomy told the others to attack them. A moment later, Deadpool and Frank fought the gang members, blowing up their bodies and chopping off their heads. Frank told Deadpool to follow the fleeing Tombstone, where he would face the gang members and could easily kill them all. Deadpool then runs out to chase the fleeing Tombstone on a motorcycle, but luckily Deadpool manages to get another motorcycle and starts chasing Tombstone while singing. Tombstone tried to blind Deadpool with the smoke coming out of his motorcycle, and when Deadpool came out of the smoke and almost hit a truck, Spider-Man came swinging and saved Deadpool. Spider-Man and Deadpool then start swinging after Tombstone to a place where Tombstone seems to be cornered. But apparently, this is according to Tombstone's plan, and he has also gathered 4 of the Hood's men who have their own superpowers, and now the 4 of them are guarding and surrounding Tombstone, ready to defeat Spider-Man and Deadpool. The Wrecking Crew is ready to attack Spider-Man and Deadpool, and Wrecker asks Spider-Man who Spider-Man's new partner is. "Aren't you going to introduce us to your girlfriend before we knock his brains out of his nose?" Deadpool then took the initiative to introduce himself. "Some people call me Deadpool, some people call me the Gangster of Love, some people call me Maurice, because I speak of the pompatus of love." The Wrecker then said to Tombstone, "Tombstone, you didn't have to hire the whole Wrecking Crew to bring these little people down, and one of us would have been more than enough muscle. But hey, it's on you." Bulldozer began to attack Spider-Man, and Thunderball began to attack Deadpool. Although they attacked suddenly, fortunately, Spider-Man and Deadpool could still easily dodge their attacks. Even though they were fighting, Deadpool still had time to babble. "Before the festivities begin, you guys have heard of me, right? The Merc with a mouth? Ring any bells?" Shortly thereafter, Spider-Man is hit with a powerful blow from the crowbar's Wrecker, sending him flying into the sky, and Deadpool comments, "Oh, glad I'm not him right about now." As he continues to stare at the thrown Spider-Man, he is suddenly hit from behind by Bulldozer, and after being blown away by the attack, he is again attacked by Thunderball with an iron ball. Despite the onslaught, Deadpool still had a chance to attack, trying to swing his sword at Piledriver, but the man easily stopped the blade with his bare hands. Immediately, the Wrecker arrived and punched Deadpool repeatedly until he hallucinated and fell to the ground, along with Spider-Man, who also eventually fell to the ground. They then said to Spider-Man and Deadpool, who were still on the ground, "The Wrecking Crew tangled with Norse gods, you wimps never had a chance." Deadpool was then lifted up by Wrecker and then gored by Bulldozer until his bones were broken. "Finish him, Pile." Suddenly, Spider-Man rises to attack them with his web. Deadpool and Spider-Man now standing back to back, ready to defeat the Wrecking Crew. Meanwhile, the Wrecking Crew is also ready to attack them, but suddenly, the Bulldozer and Piledriver are hit by a large blue laser and blown away, destroying an iron structure. Meanwhile, Wrecker, Thunderball, Deadpool, and Spider-Man are still wondering who did the attack. And it turns out that the person who attacked them was the Punisher, using the Green Goblin's glider, the Unicorn's battle ram, and the Claw's fake hand. Frank then attacks Thunderball and Wrecker with all of Green Goblin's pumpkin bombs, causing them to limp and fall due to the effects of the gas bombs. Deadpool, though hallucinating from the gas bombs, survived. Deadpool then took Wrecker's crowbar and beat him over the head until he passed out. Meanwhile, Tombstone fled to a motorcycle with a sidecar, where one of his men and Conrad were waiting. The man was thrown off the bike by Tombstone, and Tombstone fled the area with Conrad. When Deadpool tries to talk to him, he tries to run, but can't outrun Deadpool because he's fat. The man decides to take Deadpool to where Tombstone was. Elsewhere, Tombstone takes Conrad to the helicopter, but Conrad refuses to go and yells at Tombstone, "You lost, Tombstone. You lost and I won. I'm through with you. Kill me. I don't care anymore. Because look at you, running away like a scared little bitch." Tombstone then gets angry and points his gun at Conrad, but Conrad doesn't care if he dies. Soon, Deadpool came out and managed to dodge all of Tombstone's bullets. Then Conrad was thrown into the pigsty by Tombstone. But luckily, before the pigs ate Conrad alive, Deadpool managed to kill several pigs. But the biggest pig was hard to kill and managed to bite Deadpool's right arm. As Deadpool lay on the ground, Conrad stabbed the big pig from behind. Of course, Tombstone was furious to see this, but he was asked by one of his men to return to the helicopter to fly away. But before Tombstone boarded the chopper, Deadpool taunted him, saying he was nothing more than an aspiring gangster. "You killed all those people in that building for a bet? Yeah, you're a punk-ass wannabe gangster. A punk-ass wannabe gangster. If being a walking bottle of whiteout wasn't enough to emasculate you, running away with your tail between your legs must be." Tombstone is provoked by Deadpool's words and angrily opens his suit to fight Deadpool as the helicopter flies away. Deadpool was then thrown into the cage until all the wooden fences were destroyed. Then he tried to slash Tombstone with his katana sword, but it didn't work because his skin was hard and the sword was broken. He also tried to shoot him, but still couldn't penetrate Tombstone's skin. Then Tombstone smashed his head into Deadpool's head until he passed out and fell to the ground. Tombstone said to Deadpool as he was about to drag Deadpool off and lift his head, "Let me give you a little wisdom. My skin is diamond hard, which means I am invulnerable, which means you are as good as dead." Deadpool is then kicked and dragged, and the Tombstone tells Conrad that this is not over. "Conrad, just the cracker I was looking for. Little reminder, that's why we play the game, because it ain't over till I say it's over." Suddenly, Deadpool woke up and managed to trip Tombstone until he fell to the ground. He said, "You are so right. Thanks for the info, very informative. Now I'm willing to bet that your eyeball is not invulnerable, and that if I drive my bone through it, you will die." Tombstone suddenly asked what Deadpool wanted, and Deadpool wanted recognition. Meanwhile, Spider-Man, Daredevil, and the Punisher were behind him. Moments later, Conrad was brought to his father, who began telling him about their family history. "Your great-grandfather Francis O'Shea came here in 1888 with nothing but a hunger in his stomach and a will of steel. He got off the boat and went straight to the Brooklyn docks, became a longshoreman, saved his money, started buying up small plots of land, and within 20 years had built a fortune that we still live off today. It's been both a blessing and a curse for this family." Deadpool said he just wanted the money and would leave. Mr. O'Shea says to Conrad, "Tell me one reason why I shouldn't let this man kill you and end my misery, Conrad." Conrad thinks it's a joke, and Deadpool says there should be a ransom. Conrad gets down on his knees and begs Deadpool to pay, while O'Shea says he doesn't want to risk it because he has to pay Tombstone. But Deadpool says Tombstone is taken care of and is in jail. Conrad says to his father, "Please do this for me. I'll do anything you want. I'll go back to school. I'll marry that ugly Kennedy girl you've been pushing on me. What do you say, Dad?" O'Shea then tells Deadpool, "I need you to do two things for me. First, Mr. Wilson, this briefcase is full of money. On your way out, let the police in." Deadpool took the duffel bag with the money and left the penthouse, opening the door to let the police in to take care of Conrad's business. A few days later, Deadpool surprised Inez with all the furniture in her apartment and even bought the apartment for her. Deadpool answered her question because he thought it was a joke. "No joke, outlaw. I ruined your last place and got you out of that hotel. You've always been there for me. I wanted to do something nice for you. I don't have that many friends, so if the Punisher destroys my next place, I can sleep at your place?" Inez starts to kiss Wade, and they both climb into bed to have some fun. And that's the story of Deadpool Suicide Kings. A story that starts with an explosion, a frame up, and ends exactly how you'd expect. with more explosions and a lot of very confused heroes. And that's the wild story where practically everyone, even his so-called friends, wanted Deadpool dead. In the end, no matter how chaotic or broken things get, Wade Wilson always finds a way to crawl back up. Usually in the most ridiculous way possible. This arc isn't just about an anti-hero being hunted, it's about how Deadpool faces a world that isn't even sure he deserves to be saved. If you have a favorite moment from this arc or a character you think was the craziest in hunting Deadpool, drop it in the comments. Thanks for watching, and as always, have a nice day.